Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. My name is Jan Roberts, and I am a mentor in Amy Carrier's classroom. And tonight we will be talking a little bit about paying it forward with intention. And as the subtitle also says, what can we do in the next few weeks to impact the lives of people? Now, it's not like a normal leadership or development or any of the other lessons I've done, but I thought, just at this time of the year especially, it is worth having a discussion about it. So I already look forward to watching your comments, to your chat, and any feedback you want to give me. This probably won't be a full hour, and there's no need for it, unless, of course, you, the audience, decide that you have questions about this or you want to make comments, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. I am waiting a little bit for people to come online. I realized as well that even the last time I did this, I said New York time 1 p.m., but of course with the time changing in the fall, it should have been midday, because 5 o'clock UK time and 7 o'clock South African time, which I hadn't adjusted properly, they are, of course, midday, as I just found out a few minutes ago when it said I will be on in an hour. But as more of the people here watch from this side and even later in the evening, I think it is good to have it at this time, because I believe even from Pakistan it is now 10 o'clock. So it's going to be late enough, and I appreciate anybody who watches this. Salam in Pakistan too. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting, and as I said, I'll get a few minutes for people to come on before I start, and it's interesting because also for the next months coming, I would love to find out from you what you would like me to discuss, because I have touched on a lot of different areas of leadership, of self-leadership, and all kinds of other things. Of course, Arth is on. Hi, Arthi. And there is I've got enough sessions available for youth development, speaking, communication, finding your why, and if you have a specific area in any of those, coaching, speaking, any of those areas that you would like me to do either a session or a whole month, just let me know, and I will see what I can do, because we want to give you the information you require, and that is important to you and also helpful to you. And we in Amy Carrier's classroom, we have been going for quite a while now, and there is so far still I think 12 mentors around the world who give of their time, and we all have a variety of different subjects. And a guy called Alex Bertlin, he is in Sweden, and he talks a lot about cryptocurrency and everything that entails, which is very, very, very good to watch that as well. Then we have Julia Neiman. She's in I wouldn't even say whereabouts in the States, but I think towards the west the side of the States. And we have people in Brazil, Leila in Brazil. We have somebody in Israel, and we have people in the Far East, where they're wandering about. So there is all kinds of subjects that get discussed on a weekly basis, and all you need to do is sign up on Amy Carrier's classroom, and it's only 3 simple questions. Nothing strange, because first you should have your picture as an avatar. You should be able to have your English name and be able to speak English. I think that's the 3, or at least understand English, because it's also good for learning to speak more English. But you can join us. I think at the moment there is about 6,500 people from around the world in over 100 countries now. So welcome from wherever you are, and I hope that you will stretch us all, interact with us. And I say, there is 7 days of the week there is lessons available. Whether I can't say exactly what time, but there is lessons in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, of course, depending where in the world you are. But there's certainly a lot of this. Now, I actually had this discussion with Arthi Moore, who's also a fellow mentor. Her calls are usually on a Saturday, and to actually see, what will we do at this time of the year? Is it going to be yet another variety of leadership? And I've got plenty material for it, but we had a discussion about it, and I said, this seems to be a good one. I've talked about intentional leadership, and now paying it forward with intention is something that, when it comes down to it, we're all leaders anyway. But how I think at any time of the year, these things will be challenging. But especially at this time of the year, and we all look forward to the holidays, and here in the schools in South Africa have just broken up already. In some countries, in the UK and Scotland, it's usually just before Christmas for 2 weeks. Here it's actually the summer holidays, so they go on for a fair bit longer, 4 to 6 weeks or so. And everywhere you switch on the TV, which we haven't got, you open a newspaper, which I don't read, but magazines and all over the place you read about the festive season, the holiday period. And for certain people and certain groups of people, it has different meanings. But in the end, it's for a lot of people, it's an area where we come together as families, as friends, at different times, and it is wonderful to get together. Sometimes it's one of the very few times that families actually travel home to be with their parents, or our parents travel to their children. Whatever happens, we try to get as many people together wherever possible, or we connect via the media. We're talking about Skype, WhatsApp calls, any way at all, when we're halfway around the world from people we love and care for. So I will be, it's now 9 minutes past, so I normally wait about 10 minutes for people to come online. And if you're not watching this live, if you have any questions or any comments when you do watch this, I will do my very best to answer any of those that may come. And as I said, if you've got any suggestions for things that you would like, maybe not only from me, but from other fellow mentors as well. Maybe you've been in a position that you should have watched other people in the other 6 days of the week, and get the knowledge that they freely give and soak it up, rather than sit there watching a YouTube video or even Google stuff. There is real people talking about real things, and some of them I'm sure will be of interest. Maybe all of them, I don't know. But when we talk about paying it forward with intention, and then what can we do in the next few weeks to impact the lives of people? Now, I actually will talk about 3 basic points that not only me but me and Arthi discussed, and it is a time of the year where being alone is one thing, and there's a lot of people who are very alone. I actually just talked earlier this year in the UK at a conference, and as I was doing some research, I thought I noticed that there is more than 80% of people have no more than one friend. And I don't know how many of them have no real friends at all. And we're talking about friends on Facebook and friends on Twitter and all the social media. But they aren't really friends. They're not. Most of the time we don't even know these kind of people. Hello, it's again. Lovely to see you here again as well. And it's not really friends. These are, and as I said, most of the time we don't even know these kind of people. And when you have friends, when you have people, I personally have friends I've had now for about 40 years, or nearly 40 years. Of course, I got them when I was very little, but I've had some really good friends for most of my life now, and those are precious, because you know, if you look back how many people you thought you had friends and then they move, you move on to a different area, you kind of drift apart. And so some people are in your life for a reason, for a season, and some people are in your life for life. And you know, I realize how fortunate I am when I see the statistics of how many people uh, hardly have any friends or none at all that they can call their friends. You know, they talk to people at work, but when they go home, it's sometimes a lonely place. But throughout the year, of course, that's something, and it's not only people who are lonely, but I mean that is already something when you get it in your face all the time that people are together. You know, this is a time for people to come together, for families and all kinds of stuff. And now we're actually, you know, we have very little reflection on because we are celebrating, we are coming together, and we're grateful for it, of course. But you know, do we really have an awful lot of thought on those people who are lonely? And there is more people that I want to get included in this because you know, when we're talking about impact in lives, it's not just about the people who are lonely. It's actually people who are less of than us, who are less fortunate than us. Some people, there are so many people. And again, I'm sure the news is full of it all the time. People who fall on hard times, and we get statistics of unemployment, or people who are down and out on their luck, people who have, you know, very little, if anything at all. You know, I was in Scotland a couple of weeks ago with my family, and there they were actually already on the radio. They were talking about raising awareness and also getting people who can to buy an extra little present, so that more and more people in the area in the north of Scotland could have at least a little present for the children, because you know. Of course, as a parent, everybody wants to have the best for their children, and to have no presents at all when they go back to school after the holiday season, and they hear of all their friends who had this and who had that. Now it's not a competition, and that's where my first point comes in. It is being present compared to buying presents. Now there's a big difference, of course, and you know. If you look back on last year or the last years, you know, what does your festive season look like? What has it looked like in the past? You know, and of course, depending on I realize depending on your religious orientated, the way you celebrate the end of the year, the way you celebrate new beginnings, it is very diverse. I realize that, but you know, what does it really look like? You know, if it's anything that I see a lot, you know, of course it's wonderful, whether it's on Christmas Eve in some places, or some places Christmas morning, where the kids can't wait to get out of bed, and they see the Christmas tree up with Christmas presents below there, and they get together and they rip the paper off them, and they have Christmas presents, some of them more than they know what to do with, and then for the rest of the time. Is there really a lot of conversation going on? You know, how important is family time, or time to be around those who are important to you, and how much time do we actually spend with them? And you know, being in the present. They're all saying listening is a skill all by itself. And do we really have real conversations with those people in any time, but especially in the festive season? We come together, and you know, everybody has stories from maybe the past few months, or even the past year, or sometimes years, when they travel from other continents to be with each other. And are we really having a great time together, or are we just individuals who will celebrate in the same building, if you like, but we're still doing our own things? We're so concerned with different things. We're thinking about our own stuff, and we do we really listen to each other? Do we really communicate with each other in the way that we should, you know, in the short time we normally have together? Because if it's so important, I think we should make the best of it. So within that setting, the family, the friends, and the community, when we do get together, you know, be present. don't think about presence, but be present. And that's something that I think is very important. And I've seen it too often. It's missing because once the kids get their toys, they go off and play in different areas. Hello, Julia. Thank you for joining us again. As always, Julia is also a mentor in our team, same as Artie, and both of them are watching as well. We like to, whenever we can, support each other, so I really appreciate it, Julia. I'm glad and I certainly hope you're feeling a lot better. And yeah, so when we are in the next weeks, in the next month, and it's a great practice as well for the new year, to become more present, to with the people we are, whether it is at work, whether it is in our family, in our community, whether it is just in a partnership, or wherever we are, to sit, to be together and really be together. Put the mobile phones away. They can wait. We can wish somebody else a happy whatever later on. I mean, there is time for that. But just sit. Put all the electronics away and just have some real good old-fashioned family time. I can say, okay, call me old-fashioned. When I was young, of course, we didn't have mobile phones. Yes, I'm a bit older than the mobile phone, but it is so important that when we have that time together, to really spend it together. And that is, of course, when we have people who have that joy of being together. Because then the second point I want to talk about is not just about being present is more important than having presence. But the second one is really to connect with people in the community and find out what they really need. Now, my question is, do you know your neighbors? And we can assume we know them because we say hello to them, we have a variety of connections to them, but do we really know them? I've got two areas where I want to touch on this, is that I was working in a country for a while, and all of a sudden the statistics came up that 70,000 children in one of the wealthiest countries in Europe, 70,000 children were living below the poverty line. And then they had a television series about this, is how some people were lucky in a family to have one warm meal a week. And I thought, if this is in one of the wealthiest nations in Europe. And then what I found out later, there's 500,000, which is more than 10% of the population, are on or near the poverty line, or below or near the poverty line. And I thought, okay, the poverty line there might mean something different there than in for example, in South Africa or in Brazil. But it is still something that we might never know that because generally people are a proud people. Yes, they have a car to get to work and they live in a house because they're in the same neighborhood. But sometimes, do they really have the basics, what they need? And the other thing that I would like to tell you about is when I was in Scotland in the last year of my school year, it was normally the done thing that the last year would actually go and raise funds. And that happened in the run-up. Our school year started in August, so that from about September, October time, that's the time that would happen. And it didn't matter how you would raise funds, but it was actually, the funds were for people in the community who had nothing. Now you think, okay, we were living in a first world country, whatever that means. And you thought, if you're not from there, you think, oh, these people are very well looked after, and surely they always have enough. Now, what happened was the people in the communities would the school put a word out that people in the community who knew of other people who didn't have, they would put their names in forward, and then those people would get whatever it was going to be, because there was actually some people who still lived without electricity, so to give them money towards electricity, so they would have heating at Christmas, at the festive period, and then other people, and we had to go, and it was an amazingly humbling exercise, because we had to go to all these kind of people on that list to find out a little bit more about them, Not just to come with charity to the door, but to find out what their real needs were. Did they have enough heating for Christmas, and did they have any food at all for the festive period? And and of course, if they had no electricity, and then electricity vouchers were no use, so they would get coal for the fire. And strange enough, there's still people on that list who were in that predicament. But also, if they had even an open fire, and there's a lot of people to this day who have to choose between heating and food, which especially older people, and they feel the cold a little bit more, of course, especially in the northern countries. But when you then start to listen to these people, and they say, yes, we have enough for Christmas, and then they show you one tin of spam meat and two potatoes, and that was going to be their full Christmas meal, their full celebration meal, if you like. I mean, whatever. But they had very little, but yet they still didn't want to say. But I mean, at least within the community, people came forward, and when you saw this kind of thing, so the money we raised went towards basic needs parcels for those people. Now, here is my point there, because what can we do in this time of need when we are, for whatever reason, slightly more or a lot more lucky, a lot more blessed, and than those people who are in real need. They have no food, they have nobody to talk to. Loneliness can sometimes be as bad as anything. They have no way of celebrating anything because they have no money. And if you bring all these kind of things together, and I'm sure you can all think of those kind of things. I mean, we see them on the news, on social media. There's plenty of these kind of things. I mean, I saw something that touched my heart earlier this week. A 4-year-old boy who saves up his pocket money, and he goes and buys burgers and food for the homeless, and he goes and hands out. 4 years old. And he goes and hands out food to the homeless, and I mean it's amazing, and simple deeds. I mean these people had nothing to eat, and they're already homeless as well. So to have a warm meal, whether it's a burger or anything, is irrelevant. But he felt touched at that age already that he wanted to do something for those people who had less than he had, and so what can be done? What can you do to make life that little easier, to bring some cheer in a house, to get some children maybe to smile for the very first time this year, or very first time in a long while? And there's a lot that we can do, but we need to connect with each other more, because we're more and more beginning to live in this cocoon, and it's my life, my family life, and as long as this is okay. But if we ask around, if we find out a little bit more, whether it's in our community or whether it's a little bit further afield, what can we do? And let's look at it in a different way. If we can help one family, one person in our community or wherever that might be, to have a little bit more comfort, to have something small for their children that they would never have had. So I mean, the parents, I'm sure, will be proud that they at least have something small for their children, and it's not about the quantity, it's about the thought behind what comes. And if you know that people who have nothing to eat, if you know that people are without heating, if you know of people who are down and out in so many different ways, what can we do? What can we do as a people? I mean, animals. There are so many stories about animals where they look after each other, and wolves are an amazing example. When even when they're ill, they won't leave them alone. They won't leave them in the back of the queue either. There's some stunning examples where, yes, it's survival of the. We always say, yeah, but it's survival of the fittest, and the weakest ones die. Okay, we get that, but they do their best to help each other out. And I says, how can we do a little bit more? Just a little. It's not about some people doing an awful lot. It's about all of us doing a little to make sure that in this, and it's something that maybe we can start something different. That it doesn't just stop at the beginning of January again, but that we can do something that maybe continues. Maybe we can find help for some people, that need help, that we can't give, but that we can point them in the right direction. Because some people just don't know anymore. So I think that, we're always on about the bigger picture, and leaders do this, and people impact lives, and motivational speaker this, but in the end, we're all human beings. And there's a lot of human beings suffering day in, day out. But especially at this time of the year, the suffering for a lot of people seems so much worse, because there is such an abundance everywhere else, which it's normally not staring them in the face. I mean, a lot of them don't even care what time of the year it is, but they'd be glad of a hot meal. They'd be glad of something. It'd be wonderful to see a smile on the kids' faces when they're not in a position to do anything at all for them. They'll be lucky to have food on the table, and I know it's for many people that will be a present already. But if there is so much, and have a look in your community, talk to people, start getting together and talk. It doesn't have to be just you, but as a group of people, as a family. What can you do as a family to bring some cheer to another family? One family to another family. You multiply this around the community, in your villages, in the communities, in the cities, because cities are also a lonely place. There is a lot of community spirit yet in the communities, but especially in the cities, there are so many more people as well. But wherever these people are, one family to another, we spread this cheer. We get other people involved in the decision. We start talking. We start having real conversations from now, about how we can impact people, how we can impact children in our community, and put a smile on their face, put some food in their stomach, and if that is possible, something tiny that they can open. If because I know Christmas, the whole festivities around about Christmas, it's very much religious gear, but there's a lot of people who have Santa Claus and the Christmas tree and all that kind of stuff, because it's just a lovely thing to have as the festivities go on. But whatever your festivities are, whatever the time in the years where you come together, whether you just celebrate the end of the year and celebrate a new start at the 1st of January, it's irrelevant. But I say, there's holidays around the world. At this time of the year, yes, there are still people who have to work, and emergency services, and of course we should have a thought for all those services that need to be there to make sure that we can be looked after should anything happen to us. The police, the fire brigade, the hospitals, all these kind of people who are there, and of course Samaritan organizations as well, where people can actually phone. But can we do something that those people's work is a bit enlightened as well, because we actually look after our own. We actually look after, we actually give a little bit of ourselves, whatever that is going to be. And is it our time? Is it of our money? Is it a present for somebody? Is it just to make sure that there is something getting organized for some of the people in the community or you hear about? So spread the word. What can we do? So, and then of course, another thing, this happens every year again, and I see it so much in Europe as well. And the third point: don't ever put yourself into debt to please others. And I don't know enough from around the world whether, but I know in many places around the world this is something that happens every year again, because, as I said earlier, the parents, they feel that need that their children need to have something at Christmas, and and then they say, okay, but when they go back to school after the Christmas holidays, all their friends will have big presents, so we need to buy something more than just a little thing. And you can ask my daughter, because I said this many years ago. I thought, if I did not have money at Christmas, the important thing is to put food on the table. But if I did not have money, enough money at Christmas to buy a present, then that part of the festivities would be cancelled. I would still do my best to buy something little that they can open something, but I would never go into debt to please others, to show that we can put something under the Christmas tree that they open up, and some of the time they play with it for a few hours and maybe a few days, and then it lies gathering dust again. Or, you know, I'm really going back to my first point, is what we really need to give at Christmas is our time to be present at it. But I mean, I sometimes wonder what it's all about. Yes, and I mean, Christmas starts about October time, I think. They start, if not earlier. The Christmas cards come out, all the adverts on TV and in the newspapers and in the magazines, and it is a very commercialized exercise in many areas. But where it's not, that means that also there's still a lot of people who are in dire need. So, I hope that we get to know what it's all about, the getting together. Is it just to buy some presents? Well, there are birthdays as well, we can buy them presents at that time, but is it just to buy a load of presents for them and okay, they'll play with the presents, we'll go and sit and have a conversation and do whatever, but that keeps the kids occupied. No. But the thing is, the misery it causes. And if you talk to anybody in debt crisis management, ask them what happens in January. Because people spend their rent money, they spend their mortgage money, they spend money they haven't never had, they go to loan sharks, all this kind of stuff happens and there is a lot of people who start paying for their Christmas, for this festive period. They start paying for it in January and February and March, and they probably can't even afford to do anything next year because they keep paying, and by Christmas they've paid it off again, just for the whole thing to happen again. Now, to me, this for me is total madness. And then we're looking at people who have nothing, and they say, okay, they haven't got that challenge, but they have many more challenges. And so, when it comes to it, if you can have your children with you, and you're fortunate to have your children with you, and the demands come. It's not just a little toy anymore. It's and I don't want to mention any names of big brands and all that, but it's a mobile phone, it's a laptop, it's bigger and better all the time. So I think it's time to stand strong to the reality of the expectations and understand that times are changing. Times are changing, and I mean, I remember to this day the kind of present I got, and I've still got it somewhere. It was a Monopoly game, a game, and we played with it for years and years. But it was something that I treasure, and that was the present. Now, it was not even the fact that it was that present, but we had something, and yes, the more and more it goes on, we heard about other ones who had so many presents, and they even came up with a present count, or how many presents did you have. No, it's not about the amount of presents. I'm sure your children, yes, they probably would be grateful if they had I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 presents, whatever, double figures. But I'm sure even that, now for those of us who are fortunate enough, rather than pull back a bit on that, first of all, don't go into debt for it, but if you can, pull back a bit, and there is people in your area, there is people in our areas that have absolutely nothing. And if it's a time of goodwill, they say, and all this kind of you know people feeling good together. Can't we not feel good together if we can't we not feel better together? Should I say, if we start including a few more people, if we can, instead of buying that extra present that we think, oh, he or she might just like that. Think about it now. Maybe that's a meal for a family. Maybe that is some festive cheer for a down and out person. However it's going to be. I'm sure you can think about it yourself if you put your mind to it. But it is all possible. But we need to do this. We need to kind of look at ourselves and look at what's around us, because yes, there are people in most areas. I'm not necessarily saying in your area, but I'm pretty convinced that if you really looked into it, there would be people even in your area. It might be your next door neighbor. You never know. Who is destitute. You just can't see it, and it's not about charity. It's about feeling charitable, feeling that we are lucky. We have, and I'm not. That's what it ends. We have. There is so many that haven't. There are so many that go through periods now. I mean, all through the year. These are quite often periods where people really feel it more when they've just in the last months, or at least since last festive season, they've lost somebody. Now, it is of course at any time they feel it, but for some reason that when people get together as families and all of a sudden that family member or friend, dear friend, is not there anymore, that they spent years with. So there is so much more, but can we, as a people around the world, do something that'll mean something more from here, rather than just opening the wallet and say, okay, we're going to do this again. Let's do something and genuinely show that we are human beings who are interested in other human beings, even if they're not from our family, our group. How much, I hear about stories about people who work in soup kitchens on Christmas Day, and people who do, they put whole kind of, I know of people who every year they cook massive amount of food for old people in an old folks home, that gives them a different meal, and that gives them something more than they have, or bring old people together in a hall where normally they wouldn't have very much, but not only the food, but the fact that they get together in a big group. And I know how many of you would it take to put in a couple of big pots and invite some older people who are on their own, and invite them into a local community hall, or in a local wherever there is a place that you can bring them together, and so they not only have food, but they actually sit together and have some company. It'll be the highlight probably of their year, and sometimes for longer. But to bring some cheer, to bring some smiles to the faces of old and young. We have it. We have that opportunity. It's nothing to do with leadership anymore. It is actually human being to human being. So I see there is no question so far, which I'm delighted about. No, but we're now at 22 the hour, and I think you get the idea. I talked about 3 points about being present compared to buying presents, connecting with people in the community and find out what their real needs are, what they really need, and then see as a people what you can do. You don't have to do this alone. Try to invite some people. Hi Taffy, good to see you. But try to I know the community spirit is not the same as it was many years ago, and that was also because we didn't have the travel facilities. There was no no reason or no opportunities to travel thousands of kilometers or miles away, and we maybe had an old phone with one of them dials and a long cord in it. And that was the way we could keep in touch with people, and the rest we were just in the communities. I'm glad that there are still some areas where community spirit is very strong, especially here in Africa. When you go outside of the cities, there is some real community spirit. I don't say it's not in the cities either, but especially in the communities. But we can even build that community. We can bring that community spirit back, but we need to show that we do care for those people. We pass every day, but we never give them a second thought because we've seen them so often. And shame, shame. It isn't just shame. It's what can we do? And if it's just to give them a meal. I mean, for areas where it's actually cold, to provide them maybe a blanket. It's simple things, but if we all do the simple things, and if we all decide that this festive season I'm going to make a difference outside of my own area of influence, I'm going to make a difference. Then I would absolutely love to hear stories of yes. I mean, this festive, after the festive season, how I've also talked about the difference between success and significance. Now, if we are in a position that we are successful, and everything is going well for us, and that's all different levels as well. It doesn't have to mean that you have the huge mansion and the huge car and whatever. No, but you're actually doing something you love, providing for your family, providing for some extras. But significance, and I've talked about this before, and it's not a leadership thing. It's not something that you need money for. It's to open your heart to the people around you, open yourself, and finding that to be able to do something for others. And if you have money and you can do something with that way as well, great. But whatever it is, it's those small things to touch the lives of other people. You might never have thought about it for the rest of the year. Even if you know them, you see them, all of a sudden you find out something about it, or you already know that what some of those needs are, to help them a little bit. And as I've mentioned various things, but to help them a little bit. I think it's a beautiful thing, and if we're talking about leadership, and we can't give what we haven't got and all that kind of stuff, if we have, then we can give. But I'm not just talking about money or we all have a heart. Let us take our heart and touch another, maybe two, maybe three. Who knows where that might lead? And also spread that word. Talk to other people and have genuine conversations. Listen, what can we do this festive period to help some of the people in our community? What can we do this festive period to put some food on the table for people who have nothing? What can we do this festive period to put a smile on some other children's faces that will have absolutely nothing? I hope you get the message. But one thing, as the third point was as well, do not, whatever you do not put yourself in debt. For just a small period, you put yourself in debt for months. The misery that always brings is incredible. And yes, they might have a smile on their face on Christmas Day, but what will they feel like in 2 months or 3 months time when the stress and the misery that comes because now you cannot provide a roof over their head anymore, or you can't provide the rent. There is not enough to put food on the table just because of one day or one weekend. Don't do it, but do. And I would urge you all to do. If you are able to do, if you want to stand up and say, yes, this year, I'm not just going to make a difference in my family, I'm going to make a difference outside of my life, outside of our area. Then, I congratulate you already. I commend you highly, and spread the word. We'll certainly have a few more sessions very soon, but this was a slightly different one yet again, and who says the next one might be different as well. But I think it is something that we have to spread this awareness of what we all can do, and when we do this together, I'm sure we can make a much bigger impact on lives around us. And when I first talked about it as well, is what can we do in the next few weeks to impact the lives of people around us? We can do so much. Let's do it. My name is Jan Robberts. I am a mentor in Amy Carrier's classroom, and I hope that if you hear about Amy Carrier's classroom for the first time, is go to the Facebook page. You can join there. You only have to answer 3 little questions. There is an amazing group of mentors, and I said Julia Newman and Artie Moore, who are fellow mentors, are also listening and watching today. We've got amazing people from around the place, and Taffy, a good friend of mine from here in South Africa, is also watching, and there's many more people who are watching this. But there is so much that we can help with. There is information, as I said, about all kinds of different things, and some of these people, these fellow mentors of mine, are absolutely amazing. When you hear Arthie, blown away. Julia talks entrepreneurism. She involves herself a lot, and sometimes when she's not even well enough, she comes to the Facebook Live, because she feels the same as us. She feels this opportunity, and because she's learned so much, she's got a wealth of information. She feels this opportunity here in the classroom to share this with as many of you as want. We want thousands and thousands more people to come to this classroom, so we can all keep sharing more and more information. And I also know that early next year we will have a few more mentors coming in. I don't even know what the subjects are going to be like. We're going to learn about this in the next few weeks. But Amy Carrier's classroom, it is a great place to come together. It's again, we can chat. If you want to leave any comments, if there's anything at all that you would really like us to talk about, even after the new year, put it in the chat room. Says, because if there are certain subjects, and we already have from entrepreneurism to how to put all your video equipment and everything together in the most professional way, but not costing the earth. I already mentioned cryptocurrency, and there is a wealth of information here already. But if there is something that you would like to be talked about, to be discussed, and that you want to learn from a different subject or a different area, whether it's covered already or not, that is beside the point. Tell us about it. Put it in the chat box. Put it on the Facebook page, Amy Carrier's Classroom Facebook page. And as a group, we are delighted to keep coming back week after week and give you that information. And we will be delighted to ensure that you will keep getting more and more information. There's people like Amy and Saman working behind the scenes as well, and I know Julia was interviewing some people as well to find out how can we bring more knowledge, more people with different a wider variety of knowledge that we haven't in our areas can bring to you live, so you can chat to us at the same time. I look forward to seeing, and I wish you all already an amazing festive season. Let's do this together, because from my heart to yours, from your heart to somebody else's, together we can make an impact. See you soon. Goodbye.